All right. Good evening, everyone. It's so nice to see everyone gathered here for something happy. I'm Rachel Nilsson-Ralston, and I am San Francisco Hillel's Executive Director. And we're thrilled to be able to support HJLSA, the Hastings Jewish Law Student Association. And we're thrilled to gather this proud Hastings community together for a celebration. And before we dive in, it wouldn't be something I'm participating in if I didn't just do a little quick Jewish teaching, so bear with me. Judaism has a lot to say, right, about marking and sanctifying time. We're commanded to pause weekly and infrequently to celebrate, even when, or actually maybe the more appropriate way to say it is especially when there's difficult things happening in the world. And my favorite Jewish blessing is the Shehechianu, which we save for special moments, our first times, or a new or unusual experience. And Kamala Harris's ascension to the White House is one of those moments. It's a historic moment for representation, as we all know. She's our first female vice president, and many of us are wearing white tonight to honor our suffragette ancestors. She's the first Black woman and woman of Indian descent in this important role. And with her, we get our first second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, which means we will have our first Jewish family in the Naval Observatory. And I know that's a special point of pride for many of us. Kamala's family is blended and multi-faith, like many American families. And of course, the reason really we're all here is because Kamala is the first Hastings alumna in the executive branch. Woo-hoo! Another accomplishment that's worth celebrating tonight is that 100% of HJLSA's 2020 class passed the bar.
Wow. Yay!
And we couldn't be prouder or more excited. So stay tuned on more celebratory details to come. So tonight, to honor Kamala, our newest lawyers, and start our celebration, I hope folks will join me in saying, or witnessing if you prefer, a quick Shehechianu utterance together, and you'll see something shared on your screen shortly. So you can join along in the blessings transliteration or translation. And we're going to say the Hebrew followed by the English. So if you want to join me, Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu kilanu vehigianu lazman hazeh.
And I just love, thank you, with Ruach, with spirit too. I love it. So what this is saying is it's thanking the creator and the universe who keeps us alive, who sustains us and brings us to this moment. And, I'm sure it'll be referenced many times in the next hour, but it's so important to honor Kamala because, as she likes to say, she might be the first, but she won't be the last. And we know that for our students, your education at Hastings propels you to break barriers, to do good and bring change to the world. And the mission of SF Hillel is to enrich your lives while you're a student so that you can enrich the Jewish people in the world. And you're so lucky because Hastings is an exceptional place to become a lawyer. So we're thrilled to be able to hear more about Kamala on a personal level from Professor Marshall, and grateful to have so many of Hastings leadership with us tonight, including Chancellor and Dean Faigman. Before we hear from Professor Marshall, Dean Faigman is going to kick us off. So thank you, Dean.
Thank you, Rachel. So I think we're going to offer toasts after my wonderful colleague, Shauna Marshall, says a few words. I will note in response to Valerie Fontaine's observation about Hastings not getting the credit that we deserve, I will say, first of all, that Kamala Harris's background, which is obviously varied and great, and she's quite smart and quite incredible a person, but many of the things that people point to that really put her in a position of, have this opportunity come from her legal background. She started out in the district attorney's office. She was the attorney general of the state of California. And then much of her reputation in the Senate came from her participation on the Senate Judiciary Committee. So I do like to think that a lot of that foundation was gotten at Hastings. I do think that just speaking, because I have talked to a lot of her folks through the election process, that she's a politician, that she needed to get a national support, and part of that was the narrative that she was telling the country. And so I think Howard fit into that narrative in a way that Hastings did not. I have been told by several of her inside people that she cares deeply about her experience at Hastings, that she was president of BALSA, she was very active in LEOP, and that after she is sworn in, that we should expect a little greater attention to her Hastings background in time. And I'm fine with that. I will note that yesterday I got up early because I was interviewed on Polish TV about, they were doing an entire piece on Kamala Harris, and Hastings is going to feature as a big part of that story. So Valerie, we may not be getting the coverage in the United States of America right now, which I expect that we will in time, but we are a hit in Poland.
Oh, that's great.
I am expecting more and more LLM students coming from Poland in the near future. But I look forward to joining you all in making a toast to our wonderful graduate, Kamala Harris, but I'll turn it back over because I look forward to hearing from Shauna Marshall.
Wonderful. And it's my honor to introduce Shauna Marshall, Professor Marshall, to all of us. Although I sense that most of us know her, but Professor Marshall, I hope it's okay I read your bio because it inspired me. So it's worth naming again, I think.
Okay.
Especially for the students who will watch this later. Okay. So Professor Shauna Marshall is the Honorable Raymond L. Sullivan Professor of Law at UC Hastings, and she joined the faculty in 1994 as a clinical law professor. But prior to that, spent 15 years working on behalf of the public interest. She began her career as a trial attorney with the U.S. Department of Justice Antitrust Division, and 5 years later joined the Equal Rights Advocates as a staff attorney working on impact cases, policy initiatives, and mobilizing campaigns on behalf of low-income women and women of color. She spent 4 years in the Stanford and East Palo Alto community, lecturing in the areas of civil rights and community law practice at Stanford Law School, directing the East Palo Alto Community Law Project, and had different roles at Hastings, Associate Academic Dean and then Academic Dean, and joined Emeritus faculty in 2014. And what I loved most, and I think is the best transition into what will come next, Professor Marshall's greatest joy is mentoring future social justice advocates. So thank you for all of your work, Professor Marshall, and joining us tonight to share more about Kamala.
Great. Thanks, everybody. When Deborah asked me to do this, she said, you can talk for a few, 10, 15 minutes. It's okay. So I will do that. It's my pleasure to participate in something that is finally joyous after what has been a really challenging time for this country. And I want to thank Hillel and the Hastings Jewish Law Students Association for coming up with this great idea. And I wouldn't be me if I didn't want to contextualize the significance of this victory in terms of our history and particularly our racial history. We all know what a unique nation we live in. We were framed with some of the loftiest ideals in the world, but we were also sadly built on sins of slavery and genocide, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we wrestle, I think, to live up to those ideals. And we tend to have what I call the pattern of progress, backlash, light that leads to progress, and so on. And Kamala represents a light for us right now that I believe is going to lead to progress. Last week, I had the pleasure of participating as an observant in Speaker Pelosi's swearing-in ceremony. My dear friend Eva Patterson swore her in for this term. And of course, this is another Hastings connection. Eva swore her in because Eva taught Christine Pelosi and introduced her mother to Christine. So another plus for Hastings. But anyway, as swearing in, Pelosi's remarks were sort of interesting and really left me with some food for thought. She said, "We always knew for many white Americans, there would come a time when they had to choose between their whiteness and the privilege that attaches to that whiteness and or participating in a multiracial, pluralistic democracy." Pelosi then went on to say that moment is right now. And she hopes we will take the journey to that pluralistic, multiracial democracy. And for me, Kamala represents the hope that that's the path that we are setting upon. You know, we all know we had slavery, and then we had a civil war, and then we had the backlash of Jim Crow, and then we had the 50s, and we had legislation to help Blacks, and then we had the backlash of, oh, they're all members of gangs, they're all welfare queens, to stymie that progress. And then we had Obama, and we know what came next. We know the backlash that followed Obama. We've had the similar pattern with our immigrant history. We let Irish in after the famine, but then we say Irish need not apply. We let in reluctantly Jewish refugees, but then kept them out of elite schools and elite industry. We let in Chinese to work on our mines and our railroads, but then we had the Chinese Exclusion Act. So Kamala, as the child of two immigrants, also represents progress on that score. And I have to say, her father is from Jamaica, and my maternal grandparents are from Jamaica. So I share that with Kamala. My mother, like Kamala, was a first generation American. The other light that Kamala shines on us is, as we wear our white, the possibility for women. You know, in this last Democratic primary, we saw 4 talented senators running for that top office: Gillibrand, Klobuchar, Harris, Warren, representing the wide spectrum of the Democratic Party, and none of them got traction. And it's my hope that with Kamala, when the country sees how competently and confidently she does her work, that will help break that glass ceiling. And maybe we can join nations like Israel and India and New Zealand and Germany and South Korea and the rest of the world that have had women at the top. So she's done a lot for that. I also want to shine a light on why we're hearing so much about Howard. You know, on the day of the siege, Georgia did an amazing thing. It elected a Jewish documentary filmmaker and a Black reverend to the Senate, Georgia. And it did it partly with the help of a brilliant strategist named Stacey Abrams. Raphael Warnock, Stacey Abrams, Kamala Harris all went to historically Black colleges and universities. That's a huge thing in our country. And I want to talk a little bit about those places. Warnock went to Morehouse. Morehouse was started by a man named White, who was the son of a slave. And he started Morehouse to educate clergymen, and then it evolved into a liberal arts college. Spelman was started by 2 white women from Massachusetts. Parker, and what is the other one? Packard, I think. And I'm forgetting the other woman's name. Giles and Packard. And they came down from Massachusetts and started Spelman in the basement of a church. It's named Spelman after Laura Spelman, John D. Rockefeller's wife. She was the daughter of a suffragette and of abolitionists. And she gave the money to take it out of the church and make it into a real women's college. And then there's Howard University. And I also have a close connection to Howard. My mother went there. All of her first cousins went there. 2 of my nieces went there. My brother-in-law went there. We have Howard. Howard was formed 2 years after the Civil War. It was started by a white Civil War hero, Oliver Otis Howard, who also was on the commission of the Freedmen's Bureau. And he had this vision that African Americans could be fully educated and fully partake in American society. So you see the vision of these people that they could one day create future American leaders come to light with Kamala. But also, getting back to Pelosi, we see a multiracial coalition who believed in our democracy. We have one school started by a Black man whose mother was a slave, another by 2 white women, and the third by a white Civil War hero. And they had belief in our multiracial democracy, and they helped bring us Kamala. So on a more personal level, when did I first meet Kamala? Well, as Rachel noted in my bio, I was down in East Palo Alto and lecturing at Stanford, and I had a very young and energetic and talented Maya Harris as my student. And let me tell you, keen intellect, more energy than anyone I know, and she was a young single mom. And as I got to know Maya, I said to her, how do you do this all? How are you at every public interest event? And she said to me, well, the truth be told, I have a co-mom, and her name is Kamala. And we all know Kamala, the UC Hastings trained, brilliant interrogator in front of the Senate, but we don't know her as the aunt who picked up her young Mina from childcare, who stayed with her when she was 6 so Maya could take finals, who took her to after school activities. And I thought it was so fitting that Mina was on the stage with her kids when Joe and Kamala celebrated their victory. And we all know now Mina's an author, a lawyer. She started that wonderful organization, what's it called? Phenomenal Woman Action Campaign. She's a force in her own right, but she was also parented by Kamala as Kamala was doing all of these other things. My next encounter with Kamala was when she was at the DA's office, and she asked me to be on her advisory committee for this new program she was starting, Back on Track. And the program was designed for first-time nonviolent youth offenders. And she worked with social workers, educators, nonprofit housing leaders, job trainers, and the goal was really to change the trajectory of these young people's lives and put them on a new path. She was really at the forefront of a new movement of progressive DAs who were really looking at reform instead of punishment. And she was a leader in the California DA Association, although she got a lot of flack for some of these programs and being anti-death penalty. The other way I got to know Kamala was during my 8 years, or I got to work more closely with Kamala was during my 8 years as academic dean. She came and talked to public interest graduates. She came to LEOP events. She held certain prominent events at Hastings, so we would get the limelight. And she never was too busy to take a call from her alma mater's academic dean to help nurture future lawyers, future public servants like her. You know, the motto for Howard University is truth and service. And I think that's a very fitting motto for our new vice president. And lastly, what I'd like to say is, in addition to our Howard University connection, our UC Hastings connection, our Jamaican heritage connection, Kamala and I were both smart enough to marry nice Jewish lawyers who are mensches and who are very comfortable supporting opinionated, strong women of color. So we share that too. And it is so cool that our second dude will be a Jewish American coming in to the executive branch. So with that, I say, here's my chucks. Raise a glass to the next Vice President of the United States, a UC Hastings alum, L'chaim.
L'chaim.
Chaim.
Well, thank you, Professor Marshall. I don't know how we can beat that. We wanted someone who had a warmth and an intimacy and a vivaciousness and a work ethic and volunteerism kind of close to our Veep. And I think we found her in you. So thank you very much for immediately saying yes to give us a little bit of a lengthier toast. L'chaim. So I am very privileged to give the second toast to Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. And I want to say, dayenu, enough. I am so happy we're at this point. And I'm going to borrow, because I don't have the privilege of knowing Kamala intimately, I'm going to borrow 5 Jewish things we love about you from the J Weekly. So Toda Rabah J Weekly. First, like you, Shauna, Kamala married a Jew. Now, Jews are not the only parochial tribe. Apparently, one Indian American media outlet reported that the most eligible Indian American bachelorette marries a fellow lawyer. Well, we Jews cavilled that Kamala met her Jewish lawyer, Doug Emhoff, and married him in 2014. And what did they do at the wedding? They broke a glass. Dayenu. Second, Kamala likes the blue box. And no, not the Tiffany box. Kamala has a Jewish National Fund box in which she collected coins to plant trees in Israel. Third, Kamala supports Israel. She supports 2 states. She's spoken twice at AIPAC. She opposes BDS, and she loves Israel's democracy and talks about it a lot. Fourth, as Professor Marshall told us, Kamala tackles anti-Jewish hate crimes. As a district attorney in San Francisco, she created the hate crime unit. As a senator, she helped pass a bill that named religious institutions impossible targets of hate crimes, and she urged for better hate crime reporting. Fifth, her big sisters are Jewish. Well, sort of. Kamala got key endorsements in 2016 from 2 Jewish senators from California, Barbara Boxer and Dianne Feinstein. And of course, she took Barbara Boxer's seat in the Senate. Now, I didn't plagiarize all of this from the J. I'm adding my own addition. Number 6, like Golda Meir, Kamala is a balabusta who is breaking a glass ceiling in politics. As we know, Golda was the first female prime minister of Israel, and Kamala is our very first female vice president. So, as the Hadassah Alumni Advisor since 2012 and current president of UC Hastings Board of Trustees, I am honored to give this toast. And so please raise your glasses, and we're going to give a healthy l'chaim, to life, to Kamala. Thank you. And with this, I'd like to turn it over to the Hadassah board member, Katie Farr. Take it away.
Hi, Deborah. That was an awesome speech. I did my 3rd grade student book report on Golda Meir, so making that connection just makes this occasion that much more special for me. But I'm not a Hadassah board member. I'm a 1st-year student at UC Hastings, and I just wanted to hop on and give a toast to Kamala and wish her ease in her transition as VP. And as a female law student, I feel so grateful to have her as a role model and someone to look up to, and I know she's gonna make history tomorrow and for years to come. And I send Kamala a huge mazel tov. So l'chaim.
L'chaim.
Him.
Rachel, back to you.
Is it? Okay, well, I think the floor is open now for anyone who wants to offer a toast or thoughts. I know Marcia has something to share with us.
Yes, at the Shabbat Zoom before the end of the second semester, it happened to be the Friday night before the presidential election was called. You all remember that week. And everybody who was on it, all of the students were all very excited about the probability of Kamala. We were all holding our breath, of course. And of course, of the thought that she was going to bring her Jewish husband to Washington with her and what that meant. And that led to a thought which we have now implemented. And that was, don't they need a little something from Hjosa to connect them to us in Washington? That reminded me that if we wanted to give them a mezuzah, there's a wonderful jeweler in town. He's in a little box. You can see him, a brasha, wave your hand, who I had met before. We couldn't quite figure out when or why. I think I bought a wedding present from him at some point for someone. And I knew that he did beautiful Judaica. What I hadn't known until we started getting involved with this, that the only Hanukkah in the Smithsonian Institution is one that he created.
Wow.
So he has created beautiful stuff, and we started talking about it, and we now have this beautiful mezuzah. And can you see the nice little Hastings logo on the bottom?
I want one.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Which just got made. It's beautiful, and it's a nice size for a big house. Abrasha, besides giving us his talents, contributed a real cloth. Most of us have, paper ones, and this one is an actual parchment. So this is the real thing, and it even. He thinks of everything, and we even have the right screws to affix it to the wall and all the instructions. So we are hopefully through Shauna, through a Shauna connection, we'll get this to them either by its hand delivery by family members, or we'll make sure it gets safely sent to them. And with this, thank you. So if you're ever looking for great Judaica, there's, and I have to say that it's a gift of Hjosa and the Hastings faculty who were willing to share the cost of this. And those, including several of my colleagues here online, Chancellor and Dean Faigman, David Levine, Lois Whitehorn, and also, I stupidly don't have the list in front of me, and Emily Kirsch has it. There are numbers of others, and it will be on our official note that Emily also produced a really lovely, what can be a card to with Hastings in the background to send it to them. And we'll put it on the Facebook page when we get it all finally done, so everybody can see it along with a picture. And anyway, I wanted to offer a toast to Kamala's continuing success, to her continuing work on her behalf. She's been doing it for her entire career, which she kickstarted at Hastings, where she was a LEOP member, which makes me very proud. Her talent certainly will benefit our country. And I also think her story will benefit our country. Her life started combining two streams of humanity. I'm not going to call them races because we're one human race, as well as two different views on the divine, Christian and Hindu. And she has added a third to each of these with her marriage. to First Gentleman Doug, well, Second Gentleman Doug Ossoff, adding a Emhoff, right? Sorry, I spent a lot of time working on Georgia. Adding a third stream and a third religious tradition. May her example demonstrate to those who don't yet understand it, the strength and joy of embracing each other. And hopefully her being in that spotlight will increase respect for each family and each community, whatever its background and whatever its mixture. L'chaim.
L'chaim.
I'm
Marcia, that was so incredibly beautiful, and what an impressive and thoughtful gift. And two things. One, Marcia has been basically by default the faculty advisor for Hiljasa as long as I've been the alumni advisor, which is since 2012. And she's done Shabbats or cooked food for it and has been an amazing integral part of this process. And two, if you wanted to put maybe in the chat room your jeweler's information, so some of us could maybe get a second one for our less big White Houses. I think that'd be fabulous. So thank you.
I will do that, and thank you. I used to say I was the Jewish mother to the Jewish law students, but I've long since realized I was the Jewish grandmother. And that's good because my own children weren't producing, although as Shauna has known, we now have we have a Black grandchild, an adopted Black grandchild.
Yeah,
So
our grandchildren are almost the same age. Remember,
yes,
we're getting them together. Yeah.
we're going to the zoo together when we're allowed. And yeah, so we are an even more mixed family than we were, 6 months ago.
all of us are so grateful to benefit from Deborah Marcia's nurturing and the incredible faculty and alumni who support our students. So thank you.
Abrasha, if you want to say something, please. Where are you? Yeah.
Well, I'm very thankful for having been given the opportunity to make this case for this mezuzah. When you first contacted me via email, I was blown away.
Can I ask you, Asha, to tell us about the Hanukkah that's in the Smithsonian?
Well, I like to call it the National Hanukkah because it's the only one in the Smithsonian. And it's a Hanukkah that I created for an exhibition in 1995 in San Francisco for the Jewish Museum. There was an invitational exhibition. I think it was, I don't remember whether it was national or international, but there were something like between 50 and 75 Hanukkahot. And I was invited to participate in the exhibition by Kenneth Trapp, who at the time was the curator in charge of the Oakland Museum. And since I knew this was going to be a really challenging job, I wasn't too excited about it. And then he said, Abrasha, do this, I think it'll be good for you. Oh, okay, what could I say? I said, okay, Ken, I'll do it. And then years later, after I completed the Chanukiah, I had 3 trees planted in Israel for him as a thank you. Sorry, I always get very emotional when I speak to a group of people. Anyway, so I had 3 trees planted in Israel in his name as a thank you. And then later he moved from Oakland to the Renwick Gallery in Washington, D.C. And he became the curator in charge of the Renwick. And after I had completed the menorah, the Chanukiah, I also sent him a photograph of it. And then in 96, the following year, he invited me to submit the Chanukiah for approval to be added to the collection. And the way that works, you send in work and then it's voted on by a group called the Renwick Alliance. And it got voted into the collection that year. And now it's somewhere in deep storage. It, as it goes in museums, curators typically, the work they purchase, they will put on display. And then I describe to people when they ask me, where is it now? Where can I see it? I always tell them, well, you can't see it. You have to remember, if you saw the movie, what's the one with Harrison Ford and the Lost Ark, the last scene.
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark. The last scene, if you remember, is this man with a crate, pushing a crate into a very large warehouse where the Ark then rests for, that's where my Hanukkah is. My fantasy is, it's the National Hanukkah, that maybe this year in the Naval Observatory, it'll be brought out to be lit during Hanukkah. It would be nice. It's funny, I never honestly liked it very much that it ended up where it did, because Hanukkah is something that needs to be in a home. It needs to be used, like all the Judaica that I make. I like making Hanukkahot, I make mezuzot, I've made a container for Megillat Esther. Check out my website. There's a bunch of things on my website in Judaica. I like making Judaica. It connects me to my people. I grew up in an Orthodox Jewish family. And whenever I make Judaica, that connects me again. You want to know more about me? I don't know.
Now we should probably go around, but thank you so much. I saw Dilo on here. Where are you? So Dilo's been, you're on mute. She's been our other somewhat alumni advisor through the years, so maybe you want to go next? Dilo, you're still on mute.
Oh, there
You're on mute.
There we go. Okay,
right.
now I'm on unmute. I have to, find all the buttons. So I am the Vice President of San Francisco Hillel, and I am a Hastings alum, and have been involved with the JELSA over the years. So, I just think it's incredible that not only do we have a mixed race vice president, but she's one of ours. And that just makes me really proud, prouder than I have been, maybe an inch, to be a Hastings alum, because we brought Kamala to the world, is basically how I see it. And I think I'm glad to hear Chancellor and Dean Faigman say that we will see more from Kamala about us in the future, which would be great for the school, obviously. And, I just think it's wonderful. So thank you, JELSA, for putting this together. Deb Bogards, always the mover and shaker. And Shauna, thank you so much for the extremely interesting and informative talk about Kamala and the historically Black colleges, which, have really come into their own this year. So yay, Georgia. And tomorrow will be an awesome day. I mean, Georgia is just amazing.
And what's happening with Stacey? What's happening with Stacey Abrams? Anyone have any clue?
So so John Ossoff is the son-in-law of my husband's best friend from law school, Michael Kramer. So,
oh my God.
Yeah, this is full circle. And we've known John because he's been dating Michael's daughter since high school. So we've known John since he was a teenager. And John says that Stacey is probably going to try to have some other southern states model her strategy, but will make another run for governor of Georgia.
Good. Yes, she should be governor of Georgia. It was stolen.
Yeah.
Or whatever she wants to be. That's my view.
Yes. And president after Kamala.
Yeah.
All right, so we should have a student go next. Any student want to give a toast? Anybody else want to give a toast?
Well, I'll give a toast. I just, first of all, do want to thank Shauna Marshall was my academic dean for 8 years. So I had the pleasure, especially when I started, when I took over the consortium, which she twisted my arm to do, I will say. So that was her idea. But I have always just been so thankful for Shauna's leadership and her wisdom. She was a fantastic academic dean, just a great colleague, and just a most remarkable and wonderful person. So really enjoyed what you had to say, Shauna. And I will say that I have had the privilege to work with a number of the HBCUs. As you all know, of course, we have the California Scholarship, which was a $4.5 million allocation just to UC Hastings to create a scholarship. It's a full ride scholarship for California residents who graduated from an HBCU. And a year ago, September, before the pandemic hit, I had the opportunity to go to Hampton, Howard, Morehouse, Clark, and Spelman, met with the presidents of each of those colleges and universities. And just this past 2 months, I guess, we created the 3+3 program with Spelman. So we're creating a pipeline for talented graduates from that most incredible school. I just was overwhelmed when I was at Spelman. We met with a group of their leadership. I think they have a dozen of their senior leadership in the room, and they were very excited at the prospect of working with UC Hastings. And also, I just want to take my hat off to Deborah Bogarts, who, as president of the Hastings Foundation, the trustees, is doing an incredible job. And I just, really love the opportunity to partner with her. And Dilo, of course, I spent many, many years working with Dilo when she was with the trustees as well. So that's all been great. My toast is to Kamala Harris, first and foremost, one of our spectacular graduates, and somebody who somebody already said makes us all very proud. But I have to say, as a constitutional law professor, which is my other job, I also want to make a toast to constitutional democracy and competent government. I think we have forgotten what it means. And the Obama administration was so efficient and understood bureaucracy done well. And I think we've already seen with the transition that the Biden-Harris administration is going to have people that are there not because they are loyal, not because they are lackeys, not because they gave a particular amount of money, but they're competent to do their jobs. And although we don't have the Supreme Court that I would have chosen, and we don't have the federal courts that I would have chosen, we do have the House of Representatives, the Senate, and the White House, and that will go a long way. And so I think that I feel a little bit better and I can sleep better at night, knowing that the Constitution will last a little bit longer yet. And then finally, I just want to make a toast to Hastings education. The Hjalsa bar performance, but our bar performance generally was superb this year. Kamala is one of the great graduates that we've had, but we've had so many. Jackie Spear had a wonderful piece in the New York Times today. Jeff Adachi did just wonderful things for the city and county of San Francisco. And we have 20,000 living alumni from Hastings, all doing incredible, important things in their careers. So to Kamala Harris and to all Hastings graduates,
They're here.
and best of luck.
They're here.
I just want to interject for a moment. So Chancellor and Dean David Faigman and his team came up with the idea, if you can see my background, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be a half-page ad tomorrow in a special inauguration edition of the Washington Post. We are putting it on through the Board of Trustees and the Board of Governors, but it really is his concept. So I applaud and thank you, David, for coming up with this. And I think it's, just so you can see it,
Can you tell us
I think it's so incredible and beautiful.
Can you
that,
tell us what it says, Deborah? What does it say?
David, what does it say?
says.
And be sure to read the banner at the bottom, which you can't really see in your picture.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
can't read it.
It's basically says that the foundation and the Board of Governors, wishes a hearty congratulations to our newest Kamala Harris. And so it puts Hastings right out there in terms of congratulating her, and it's in the news. It helps with not only our big donors, but I don't want to single anybody out, and she's not feeling well, but Jennifer Fung's on this Zoom. She's on our stewardship committee chair, doing a fabulous job on our Board of Trustees. And so with the dean's permission, we're going to task her with taking this gorgeous, gorgeous piece of artwork and putting it on like muslin bags that you can carry around. Or I would like a silk scarf to go with my mother-in-law, who was 92 and a half when she passed away, her pearls. So I think that would be like resonate with all the alums. And I think we're going to try to do something that's very egalitarian, where you just donate what you want to a general scholarship fund at UC Hastings. So that's kind of in the works, but we're taking this one off that's going to appear in the Washington Post. And it's such I think a better graphic than Vanity Fair was able to do.
Yeah.
And we're going to kind of run with it. So that's in the future. Anyhow, I turn it over to somebody else who wants to make a toast.
Deborah, let me ask you a question. Will there be a scholarship fund in honor of Kamala Harris? Will it be?
David, what do you think? Turn over to David.
We'll talk about it. I don't want to make, since we're recording, I don't want to make any commitments.
But right now, Marcia,
it has to be over 25,000. We do have certain rules about naming things. But I think it's a great idea, and I'd be thrilled to have over 25,000 dedicated to that, and over 100,000 would allow us to do an endowment. So I would aspire to put her name on it.
Great idea. Anyhow, I just didn't think that artwork should just go by for a one-day Washington Post. I'd like to be carrying a little bag around town with it on there. I'm sure you would too. I'd like a scarf with my pearls. And if you have any other ideas, by the way, you can shoot them in the chat room or reach me at deborah@bogarts2as.law. And we are open to any and all ideas for that. Next person.
I have a little point I'd like to make. We're all so proud of Kamala, and she's so qualified and talented and wonderful, and I can't say enough about her and everything everyone has said. But there's one little thing that I think I'd like to point out, because particularly right now, I think it is so important. And that is the everyday joy and life and happiness she exudes. Her smile, her personality, her laugh. Every single interview you see, she's laughing. I'm thinking we've all been so traumatized in 2020 and in 2020 and in 2021 that when you see her in such a traumatic time and she is smiling and laughing as she is doing good and moving forward and bringing everyone along with her, I think that that is so important, especially combined with Joe Biden's wonderful personality. But her smile, her joy, her laughter, I think is just going to start a whole new theme and era for the coming time. And I, for one, am extremely grateful for that.
Amen.
Amen.
Hey, Therese, did you work with her when you were in the DA's office?
I left the DA's office before she came, so I didn't work with her. Although I have met her afterwards when she started her political career. I don't really know her, but we did have a conversation about what happened during that time and everything. She came in not long after I left, but under the new DA. So no, I didn't work with her. She was an Alameda DA when I was a San Francisco DA.
By the way, the wonderful thing about the Hastings community is Teresa and I were actually, I think in the same section, we were classmates in 81. For all you students out there, we graduated back in 81, the old dinosaurs. And Teresa and I reconnected when they started the San Francisco Bay Area chapter of Alumni for Hastings. And we met on that first Zoom.
Wow.
So there was, I mean, we'd seen each other bits over the years and everything, but it was a good time to reconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say one thing is that Joe Biden also comes from a family with a lot of Jews in it too. He's got Jewish grandchildren, his children married Jews. He's got a really wonderfully diverse cabinet, hopefully, and administration. Hopefully they'll all get approved, but there are a lot of Jews there too. So
They make a minion. I was reading today, they have enough for a minion.
easily enough for a minion.
Yeah, it's amazing.
But there are also people of all different colors and faiths, and as Marcia says, streams of humanity. And it's very important that we get to see that now. We really need that now.
Well, I want to thank everyone who shared a toast so far. For those I don't know, my name is Sasha. I am the Graduate Experience Architect at San Francisco Hillel, so I support our wonderful Hijilsa board and community. And to ensure everyone has the chance to share and also catch up with one another, we're actually going to divide you now into breakout rooms. And we have a little prompt you can use to get the conversation started.
I have to go. I have something else I have to be on at
totally
7.
fine.
So
Bye, Valerie.
bye.
Good to see you.
Lovely
Bye.
seeing you.
Thanks for being here.
Wonderful. So Kamala isn't the only trailblazing alumna from UC Hastings. There
I
was
have to go too, but I want to end with fireworks.
I love it. Thank you so much.
How do you do that?
I'm a geek.
Okay.
But anyway, again, Marcia, thank you again for inviting me to make this mezuzah, but also to invite me to this meeting, which turned out exceptionally moving for me. It was very nice. Thank you all very much.
Glad you could come.
Thank you, Abrasha.
Good night.
Good night.
I'm going to take off too, but I want to say thank you to everybody for doing this for us. Marcia, for getting that beautiful mezuzah started. That's just wonderful. And you said, let's get some people invited to the Hanukkah party. Great. The other thing I was thinking is Adam Sandler can write the Hanukkah song just with the Biden administration, just with the cabinet, and that's it. Nothing else. Sean, I just want to say thank you for the beautiful remarks. And then last thing I was going to mention is that Marcia and I are the co-chairs of the LEOP committee, the admissions committee this year. And wouldn't it be nice if a few years down the line we can say, oh yeah, we found another.
We're counting on you.
We'll see what we can do. No promises, but we'll see what we can do. But anyway, thank you to everybody for making this possible. This was just really wonderful. And, you know, brighter days are ahead, starting tomorrow at 9 o'clock Pacific.
Bye, David.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody. I also want to just say thanks so much. This has been wonderful. And Shauna, Marcia, Rachel, thank you for putting this together. David, and Deborah. I can remember almost 20 years ago starting in Hastings and, you know, there for LEOP orientation and you know, meeting Kamala there and many times over the years. It's so great to have her. I mean, for current students, she is a very active member of the school, and she comes around a lot. I think she was on campus either last year, the year before. I remember seeing her again, and she always is like family to all of her Hastings community. So I think, you know, she's probably busy right now, but I think we're gonna get in soon, I think. And you know, really looking forward to tomorrow. I know like everyone here has said it, and you know, so many words have been said about 2020 and 2021, our hopes for the future, but this is a real, you know, concrete day where things are really changing. And I think that's something, you know, Georgia was a great start. Tomorrow's, you know, we keep moving forward. And so I think points are well taken. So.
Sasha, I'm going to have to say goodnight also.
That's okay.
Great to see you. I didn't know we were going to have a thing after the thing. So
So actually,
Sounds like we're done.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say, we'll scratch the breakout room since folks are leaving and we lost track of time with all the beautiful toasts. But I wanna I know we have a few students still lingering, so Naomi has an official thanks. Sasha's gonna give just a quick announcement of upcoming events, and then we can officially do our wrap up and let everyone go off to dinner. So appreciate everyone being with us.
Thanks,
Yes.
Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Dilo. Wonderful to see you. My name's Naomi, and I am the director of campuses at San Francisco Hillel. So there's been so much gratitude here, and I was feeling a lot of emotions for Klemt, my Yiddish word of the day, because it feels like we've all said it. There's so much joy and there's hope. And for myself, as I used to say that I was going to be the first female and Jewish president. But I also hope that I'm not, because I hope people beat me to it. And I'm so proud that it finally feels like someone is there, or that it's getting closer. So thank you all for joining us for this celebration. A big thank you to Professor Marshall. We are so grateful that you could join us. Your words gave me goosebumps, so thank you for sharing them. Dean Faigman, thank you for joining us as well, for welcoming everyone, for your constant support of our community. Deborah, thank you for being our alumni advisor, for sharing your words as well, for being our biggest cheerleader, and Marsha Cohen as well. Thank you for spearheading the mezuzah. It is so, so beautiful, and thank you for that. And thank you everyone who joined us, students, alumni, other faculty, other staff. This has been amazing. And I'll pass it to Sasha, who's going to just provide a little bit of a snapshot of what's to expect for Hajilsa for the rest of the semester, because the excitement will continue.
Absolutely. So the Hajilsa board has exciting plans for the spring semester. They've planned a great semester, even if events are virtual. And so we have a few upcoming opportunities. There is a continuation of our peer mentorship program. So if you're a 1L and you want a 2L or 3L mentor from Hajilsa, please feel free to reach out to me or any of our board members, and I'll throw my email in the chat later. We're sending out Tu B'Shvat packages. So if you're a current student and you want seeds and a planter sent to you from Hajilsa, please reach out by end of day tomorrow. The SF Hillel Grad Network has a learning cohort. It's called Kol Yisrael, and it's beginning in February. It's an Israel learning opportunity where we'll explore how Jews navigate and share space in and around the Jewish state. And then keep an eye out for dates and other upcoming events like a faculty and student Shabbat, an upperclassmen AMA, Ask Me Anything, our final Shabbat, holiday celebrations, graduation celebrations. There's so much in store for this semester. And then finally, leadership recruitment. If you're interested in being on Hajilsa's executive board for the next academic year, please reach out to us. Applications will be launched soon, but it's always a good idea to get a head start and let us know you're interested.
Thank you so much. Wonderful, Sasha. Thank you. And Lauren, thank you for putting the events calendar in the chat. That's wonderful for us to see as well. So beautiful. Thank you. With that, this can be the closing, but no one has to leave if you don't want to. We can keep it open for more chatting, and I can stop the recording because people don't need to hear the schmoozing. But thank you all for joining us.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.
To Kamala.